Imagine waking up, grabbing your phone, and instantly feeling like you're already behind before your day is even properly started. Like somehow everyone else got a head start in life and forgot to tell you. Someone your age just launched the business and is celebrating it like it's completely normal. Another person is posting pictures from a different country every single week, like travel is just part of their routine. Someone else casually announces a big project like it didn't take months of effort behind the scenes. And you're just standing there wondering why you walked into a room 5 minutes ago. And right in that moment, your brain hits you with a question that feels impossible to ignore. Why do some people move ahead faster than me? It doesn't feel fair when you think about it. It doesn't feel logical when you compare timelines. And it definitely doesn't feel good when that thought keeps looping in your head. Because no one really explains this part clearly. They show results at the end, not the process that created those results. So from the outside, it starts to look like magic. Like some people just have something you don't. But they don't. They just move differently. And that difference compounds over time. That's it. Most people assume progress comes from intelligence or talent or luck. But those things are inconsistent and unreliable. They change depending on the situation. What actually creates speed in life is behavior. More specifically, how quickly someone turns thoughts into action. Because there is always a gap between thinking about something and actually doing it. And most people stay in that gap for way too long. They think, plan, imagine, and prepare. But they don't move yet. They wait until it feels right, safe, or clear. And that waiting is where time disappears. Because there are other people who feel the same hesitation and still decide to move anyway. That is the real difference. Not confidence or certainty, just movement despite uncertainty. Speed in life doesn't come from moving faster. It comes from starting sooner. Two people can move at the same pace, but the one who starts earlier will always look ahead. And that early start rarely looks impressive. It looks messy, unclear, and uncomfortable, which is exactly why most people avoid it, because it doesn't match the perfect version they imagined. They think progress should feel smooth and controlled, but real progress feels chaotic at the beginning. And that's completely normal. Now, let's talk about momentum, because this is where things really change. Momentum doesn't show up immediately. At first, your effort feels disconnected from results. You try something and nothing happens. You try again and still nothing changes. And your brain starts questioning everything. It asks if this is working, if it's worth it, or if you should just stop. And that moment is where most people quit, because they expect feedback too early. But momentum builds quietly under the surface through repetition and consistency. It grows when you keep showing up even when nothing seems to change. And then one day, something shifts. Things start working just enough for you to notice. And suddenly, it feels like progress appeared overnight. But it didn't. It started earlier with actions that felt pointless at the time. Most people only believe in progress they can see. So when results are invisible, they stop. But people who move ahead faster keep going without proof, validation, or attention. And that's what creates the gap. There's also something called action bias, which plays a huge role here. Some people naturally lean toward doing things quickly. Others lean toward thinking about them endlessly. And over time, that small difference becomes massive because every action creates feedback, and feedback creates learning. So the more you act, the faster you improve. Not because you're smarter, but because you're collecting real experience. Imagine two people trying to improve at the same thing. One studies everything before starting. The other starts immediately and learns by doing. After a month, the difference becomes obvious. The one who acted has already improved because experience compresses learning into a shorter time. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Moving ahead faster is not about avoiding mistakes. It's about making them earlier because mistakes show you what doesn't work and eliminate wasted paths. Which brings you closer to what does work. So instead of fearing mistakes, fast movers expect them and move through them. Now let's talk about something most people overlook: your environment. It is shaping your behavior constantly, whether you notice it or not. If everything around you is distracting, your focus will suffer. If everything makes procrastination easy, you will procrastinate. Not because you lack discipline, but because your environment is designed that way. Now, flip it. Make good actions easier to start and bad actions harder to continue. Remove friction from progress and add friction to distractions. And suddenly, you don't need motivation as much because your environment supports your behavior automatically. That's how consistency is built, not through force, but through design. Now, consider decision delay. Most people spend too much time trying to make the perfect choice. They want clarity and certainty before they act, so they wait, analyze, and overthink. But every day spent deciding is a day not progressing. Fast movers shorten that gap. They decide, act, learn, and adjust, which means even their wrong decisions move them forward because they lead to better ones. And that's why it looks like speed. But it's not speed. It's reduced hesitation. So here's what actually matters. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a starting point, something small you can act on today, because starting creates clarity. And once you start, everything begins to shift. Your thinking sharpens, your decisions become easier, your confidence builds through action. And that is where everything changes. And that is where we continue. And once that shift begins to happen, something subtle but powerful starts to change in the way you see yourself. Not just in what you do, but in how you interpret your own behavior and decisions over time. Because there is a deeper layer behind progress that most people never consciously think about. Identity. Not the version of you that you hope to become someday, but the version of you that you already believe you are right now. And your brain is constantly trying to stay consistent with that belief, whether it helps you or holds you back. If you see yourself as someone who struggles to stay consistent, your actions will quietly align with that story. You will start things with energy, but stop when it gets uncomfortable or inconvenient. You will hesitate when something feels uncertain. You will delay actions that require effort or risk. And each time you do that, you reinforce that identity without even realizing it. But the moment you begin to shift that belief, even slightly, your behavior starts to change in response. If you start seeing yourself as someone who follows through even in small ways, your decisions begin to align with that version of you. You begin finishing things you would have abandoned before. You show up differently in situations that used to overwhelm you. And over time, that identity becomes real through repeated action. Not because you declared it once, but because you proved it consistently. Now here's something most people completely overlook. Opportunities don't suddenly appear out of nowhere in obvious ways. They become visible based on your level of awareness. Two people can be in the exact same situation at the exact same time with access to the same resources, and one person notices an opportunity while the other walks right past it. Not because one is luckier, but because one is paying attention differently. Fast movers train their awareness intentionally. They stay curious about what's happening around them. They ask questions instead of assuming they already know. They explore instead of ignoring. And because of that, they notice openings that most people never even see. And when they notice them, they act before overthinking has time to shut them down. Now, let's talk about something that quietly slows everything down without being obvious. Waiting. Waiting to feel ready before starting something important. Waiting to feel confident before taking a risk. Waiting for the right time that somehow never fully arrives. But the truth is, those conditions don't come first. Confidence is built after you take action, not before. Clarity shows up after you move forward, not while you're standing still. And timing becomes right because you started, not because you waited long enough. So if you rely on those things, you delay your own progress without realizing it. And that delay compounds just like action does. Now, here's a shift that simplifies everything. Moving ahead is not about doing more than everyone else, it's about delaying less than everyone else. Think about how often you pause when you could act. You think about starting something but leave it for later. You consider an idea but never test it. You make a plan but don't follow through. Those pauses might feel small in the moment, but they add up over time. Not because you lack ability, but because you're not converting thoughts into action quickly enough. Fast movers reduce that gap consistently. They don't let ideas sit untouched for too long. They act on them, test them, and move forward without waiting for perfection. And that creates a completely different pace of progress. Now, zoom out for a moment because perspective matters here. You're measuring your progress too closely in short time frames. Day by day or even week by week, everything feels small and sometimes invisible. It can even feel like nothing is changing at all. But real growth only becomes obvious when you zoom out far enough. Over months or years, the difference becomes undeniable. But in the moment, it just feels like effort without reward. And that is why patience matters so much. Not passive patience where you wait and hope things improve, but active patience where you keep moving even when results are slow, because you understand that something is building beneath the surface. Now, here's something that can completely shift your mindset. Stop thinking in terms of catching up with other people, because that idea creates pressure that leads to rushed and misaligned decisions. You start chasing things that don't actually matter to you just to feel like you're ahead, and that leads you in the wrong direction. Instead, focus on direction itself, because direction determines where you end up in the long run, not speed. You can move very fast in the wrong direction and waste years, or you can move steadily in the right direction and build something meaningful over time. So the real question becomes much simpler. Not how fast am I going, but where am I going? Now, bring everything back to today, because that's where control actually exists, right now, not in the future and not in some ideal version of your life. What is one thing you have been putting off? Not everything you want to fix or improve, just one clear action. That thing sitting quietly in the back of your mind that you keep delaying, that is your next move. Do it without overthinking every detail. Do it without waiting for perfect conditions. Do it even if it feels small and insignificant. Because that is how real progress begins, quietly and without attention. And then it builds, step by step over time. Now, here's something important to remember. The people you think are ahead of you are still figuring things out as they go. They don't have everything solved. They are not certain all the time. They are simply moving while figuring things out. And that creates the illusion of speed. Because from the outside, it looks smooth and intentional. But from the inside, it is still messy and uncertain. And that is completely normal. Now, here's the final shift you need to understand. Progress is not about doing something big once. It is about not stopping over time. Consistency beats intensity every single time. Showing up repeatedly beats short bursts of motivation. Continuing forward beats constantly restarting from zero. Because every time you stop, you lose the progress you built. And every time you continue, you build on top of it. So the goal becomes simple. Keep moving forward even when it feels slow. Keep going when it feels repetitive. Keep showing up when it feels like nothing is happening. Because something is happening, even if you cannot see it yet. And one day, you will be able to see it clearly. And when that moment comes, it will look like it happened fast, but you will know the truth behind it. It did not happen quickly. It happened consistently. So don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't compare your timeline to someone else's. Don't hesitate when you already know the next step. Start where you are. Continue from there and keep moving forward, because the real advantage was never speed. It was always consistency applied over time. And now you understand exactly how it works. My name is Peter, and if this helped you see why some people seem to move ahead faster just because they start earlier, stay consistent, and keep going when others stop, then make sure to hit like, subscribe, and don't forget to watch the next video because that's where we take this even further. And share this with someone who's been stuck overthinking instead of actually starting. You probably already have someone in mind. Trust me, we all do.